What's up? Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast presented by Pointsbet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. What's up, everyone? My name is Adam Hoge alongside Nicholas Moreano. Today, Will DeWitt will join us momentarily. What a glorious day it is for Cubs and White Sox baseball. I mean, if I was making the MLB schedule, I would say, let's do a Tuesday the first week of May.
That's such a terrible idea. My goodness. And where's the sun at? I mean,
we haven't seen that in a couple weeks. So.
You had a great tweet, Adam. It's like that ball of energy in the sky. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah, people thought I actually saw aliens, though, when that happened. It caused a little bit of a stir, so I apologize for that. Welcome into the show. Excited to be here today. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And want to make sure you know that the best way to support CHGO is to go to Pointsbet, use that code CHGO, and also check out allchgo.com. Get those memberships, sign up. And we have shows every single day for the Bears, White Sox, Cubs, Bulls, Blackhawks, Fire now.
Everything. We got it.
The Sky, the Red Stars, we got it all covered here on CHGO, and we appreciate you guys being here. It is time. We've had a couple days to look at the draft, soak it all in, see what the Bears did. And, you know, Nick, I think like every single day we've been here, whether it's on Twitter or in our comments, we've had a request to talk to my good friend Adam Jahns. Mm-hmm. And so who better to bring into the show today than Jahnsy from his normal spot in his living room.
In the dining room. What's up, boys?
Like, you can't get yourself an office by now?
My beautiful wife has that taken over upstairs.
Okay. And that's how it should be.
We're still in the dining room.
That's how it should be. What's up, Jahnsy? Welcome in. Appreciate you being here. Welcome to CHGO, your first appearance.
I'm just here to talk about that punter, right?
That's it. We're going to do 20 minutes on the punter.
All right.
That's what you wanted, right? That's what you texted me about. We're here to talk about the punter, and let's go.
I mean, you spent the last 2 days breaking down the punter film, right?
I actually forgot his name.
That's
Trent
nice.
Gill.
What was it?
Trent Gill.
Got it.
There he is, Trenton Gill.
It's a big dude.
Our guy. 6'4" punter. I mean, come on.
Look at the tricep. The tricep
He's
is
going to be out there blasting dudes, making tackles, hopefully. Well, Jahnsy, welcome in. Appreciate you being here today. And let's start with this. Okay, so the draft is over. We saw what Ryan Poles did in his first draft. He did not have a first-round pick. So on Friday night, he has 3 picks, and he seemed to take – he could have traded back. We all talked about potentially trading back. And on Friday, he decided to sit down, make his picks where he was, and he seemed to draft guys that can contribute early. Then on day 3, he goes crazy with all these trades, adds a bunch of picks, ends up making 11, and then it seemed like then was where he was able to make some more like traits picks and take some gambles on guys that may or may not work out, but he brought in a bunch of dudes, threw a lot of darts, at the board to see if he can hit some. What did you think about Ryan Poles' process before we get to the players, but the process in his first draft?
Well, there's, in my opinion, 2 processes going on here. There was a best player available process going on day 2 of the draft, and I like the 2 guys he picked for a secondary. I think those are 2 day 1 starters. You cannot argue against that. Those are potential day 1 starters that Ryan Poles drafted for his first 2 picks as GM. But then day 3 was different. He wanted quantity, not quality. That's the argument there. He wanted to add more to his roster. He had a lot of holes. He wanted more swings at certain positions. You saw him take 4 offensive linemen. So if you're talking about how he did his business in his first draft, there was really like 2 drafts. There was best player available on day 2 for him. And then day 3, it was all about the swings. He wanted quantity. Quantity, quantity, quantity.
You know what, Adam? both Adam, Hoge, Jahns. I want to ask you guys this. If you go into Bears Twitter, you look at the 2 picks, defensive guys. A lot of people will say, whoa, does this mean that the Bears don't trust in Justin Fields because they're just upgrading the defense? What do you guys make of that? I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff on Bears Twitter, but that was going around as soon as day 2 ended.
I think it's almost annoying at this point, right, guys? Like, what else does Ryan Poles have to say? What does he have to say? He literally said that we watched film with Justin Fields to prepare him for the draft.
Thank you.
It included Velus Jones Jr., who they drafted. I mean, come on. He was asked about watching the Giants pick 7th overall and how he felt about it. First, he said, I'm used to it because of Kansas City. But you know what? It's because you got to go crazy for a quarterback. You got to make bold moves for a quarterback. But he thought about Justin Fields. When I think about that 7th pick overall, that's Justin Fields for us. He's ecstatic to have him. I don't know what Ryan Poles could say. Like, he might have to get on Twitter himself. He might have to come on this show, our show, Adam, like any show. He'd be like, I love Justin Fields. He's my guy. I don't know what else he could do.
And the other thing that I don't know how is being missed in all this, but cornerback is like one of their biggest needs. Yes. I mean, yes, offensive line, yes, wide receiver, but like if you're going to look at the defensive side of the ball, because it's not just one spot, it's 2. Like they have an open, the number 2 corner spot's open, the slot corner spot's open, and basically the strong safety position was open too. So they dressed that right away with guys who I think we all think can contribute right away.
Just go back to week 1, fellas. Cooper Kupp wide open. Throughout the season, the breakdowns in the secondary. I get it. It's a quarterback league, but you know what? Quarterbacks are throwing into secondaries, are they not? It helps to have better players back there. Cornerback, it's a premier position, an all-important position. It's up there maybe right behind offensive tackle, number 3 on the list, right? It's passers, pass rushers, and then cornerbacks and receivers maybe. You needed a cornerback.
Yeah, Jahns, when you look at the day 3 guys that the Bears gotten, it's supposed to be 3, and they end up with 8 on that day, so it made for a long day at House Hall. But which one of those guys most intrigues you? Is there someone that kind of stands out amongst the others that you're kind of intrigued to see how this player can potentially grow in this new Bears regime?
Not right now. Maybe after rookie minicamp, because, I don't know, covering this team, like, first impressions to me mean a lot. Like, we were there when the Bears had training camp with Mitch Trubisky, Eddie Jackson, and Tariq Cohen right there. And Adam Shaheen was part of that class. Almost immediately, you knew they had something in Eddie Jackson and Tariq Cohen. You could debate that now, but that team, that year, you could tell they had something. You could tell early in training camp that Mitch Trubisky was the best quarterback on that roster. Sorry, Mike Lennon. He just was. He was. You could tell early. Adam Shaheen, you could tell he needed time. Game was a bit fast for him. So I'm interested to see them here in rookie minicamp. That's this weekend coming up. But I like the idea that they took 4 swings at offensive linemen on day 3. I think that increases your hit rate.
Jahns, we all make calls and like try to get a sense for who some of these guys are and how quickly they can contribute. And like you said, like a lot of times you got to wait. I always love when the pads come on in training camp, because when you talk about first impressions, I think that's like the real first impression that really matters. But do you get any sense for those 4 offensive linemen, which one of them could potentially contribute sooner than later? Because definitely a couple of them seem like they're projects.
Well, it depends also who you currently got on the roster, right? Like, do the Bears really believe in Larry Borom at left tackle? Like, do they really? Is he their answer there? I mean, Tevin Jenkins seems pretty safe at right tackle. We all know there's a wide open race at right guard. Who's filling that spot? That is a position that could be had for a young guy, for a guy who's not even on the team right now. Maybe some veterans going to be signed. But you look at right guard and left tackle, they want competition there. I don't know which one of these rookies can make that transition from tackle to guard faster, because that's what you're talking about. All those guys play tackle except for the center from Illinois. They all played tackle in college. Who can make that jump to right guard in the Bears offense the quickest?
Yeah, and Jahns, I just want to ask you and Em this question as well. Obviously, this being like my first full year covering the Bears, but when the Bears gave us access to some of the scouts just to kind of get a better indication of who these players are off the field and obviously on the field, What do you make of that, where that Ryan Poles is, wanting to give us this access to get to know some of these players a little bit more?
I liked it. You can't argue against more access. It felt different from the get-go. I've covered this team since Lovie Smith, and I can't remember a draft where they marched out scouts like that before. Like, eventually you could get them for certain stories, but those are exclusive. Those are by request. To have them come down one after each other to talk about the picks that are from their area. Like David Williams talked about 2 guys from his area. Brett Ackley talked about 2 guys from his area because they know him well. I saw it as Ryan Poles being inclusive, having respect for the process that these scouts went through. I mean, hours upon hours upon hours, days and days and months of scouting these guys. 400 reports. They felt happy to have more picks. I think that changed the mood of the entire draft room in hell. So you look at some of those pictures, that room had more people in it. The scouts were at tables. I didn't see Ted Phillips at all. George McCaskey wasn't in there. I think that's significant. The scouts were in there. No Ted Phillips. Stands out to me, guys.
I did see one photo of Pat McCaskey, though.
Yeah.
He's always in there.
But Pat's always there.
He's always in there.
Pat's the best. All right. That's probably a good transition then to what we've already heard a little bit. Some reports have been out there that, and this should not, let me stress this should not be a surprise. Even though Ryan Poles has praised these scouts, maybe you've heard differently, Jahns, but everything I've heard, it's reciprocated. Like, there's been a lot of respect between the scouts that were already here and Ryan Poles coming in, and they all know this business and how it works. The contracts run through the draft, and then it's inevitable that there's going to be some changes. The big question to me was, would Mark Sadowski, who's been the team scouting director now for a little bit and been with the team for a long time, also shout out because he's the St. Rita guy, Catholic League, Catholic League guys here. We got to back each other up.
Guy, Bridgeport native.
Yep. And a huge White Sox fan too. Mark Sadowski.
If you don't, that doesn't count. But
it's the most important factor. But it does sound like Ryan Poles is going to move on from him. Not terribly surprised. But this is a guy who I think has actually done a pretty good job. You look at what the Bears have done with a lot of these late round picks. Like, I think that's where the scout work really matters, because the GMs ultimately know everything there is to know about most of these guys, but really take the pride in the first picks, the second round picks. Those are the key ones. So I think the scouting work really comes through with the late rounders, and the Bears have had a good run, the last 5 or 6 years in that 5th, 6th round area.
Yeah, Eddie Jackson is one of Mark Sadowski's more recent picks. Everybody knows him for selecting Devin Hester. He's the one who was most keen on Devin Hester, argued for Devin Hester, to use the old phrase or the old school phrase in Matt Eberflus's words. He was banging on the table for Devin Hester. What year was that? 2007, right? 2007 draft?
06. 06 was his.
Yeah, that is a Mark Sadowski pick, and I think Mark will find a job right away in the NFL. I think, well, just to go back to the front office changes, I thought it was noteworthy that Trey Koziel came over before the draft from Kansas City, because you don't see that often. Like you said, Adam, you see the moves happen after the draft. And I think there's some debate around the league how teams want to handle this, right? I think there's some rule changes. You're the rules guy. Like, wasn't there some debate at the owners' meeting about this?
Yeah, I think they passed that in the future teams are going to be able to deny interviews. Now, they don't have to, but they can basically delay the process to not have a situation where Ian Cunningham left right away. Now, I don't know how that's actually going to work, because some other executives I've talked to have been like, well, if a guy really wants to advance their career and make a move, like, we're not going to stand in their way.
Right.
But at least gives the team the power in a certain situation to maybe say, no, this is going to have to wait till after the draft.
Right. I like calling it the Ian Cunningham rule. We could call
I
it
do too.
Yeah. That's the rule. But, like, fans just have to understand how often these changes happen. Like, I think it's been forgotten that Joe Douglas was on Ryan Pace's first scouting staff.
He was the director of college scouting for a year.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the one who preceded Mark Sadowski before he got the promotion. And now he's the GM of the Jets. Those changes happen all the time. A lot of scouts have their own agents now. It's just part of it. But I also wasn't surprised that some of the Pace guys, some of the Pace scouts stayed on staff. Some of them are very respected around the league.
Yeah, Jahns. Actually, just wanted to get just your perspective on the whole draft class as a whole. Just kind of bring it back to the beginning here, because I thought if the Bears didn't come away with a receiver on day 2 of the draft, Bears Twitter would lose their mind. But I think collectively, they like. I think they like this draft.
That mind's long gone.
That's true, but I feel like collectively, after what Poles was able to do on day 3, getting all the picks, that Bears fans actually like this draft. Was there a scenario in which the Bears did not draft a receiver high up that you thought this would be the case?
I'll give Crazy Bears Twitter this. With Ryan Poles trading back that many times, I forget how many times he traded back on day 3, but to go from 3 picks to 11, that was a lot of trades. I think one trade's technically like a trade forward because it was next year's draft. So
you got caught by that.
I saw that.
Bears Twitter called you out for that. I actually, you think you're trading back, but really you're trading a year forward.
It's probably why I'm a little annoyed with Bears Twitter right now. They call me out there. So well played, Bears Twitter. Come on, Adam Jahns, get it right. But yes, they traded forward. You get the point. 11 picks. I thought maybe they would take another receiver on day 3 because of it. So if you want to argue about anything on day 3 about their selections, maybe you need another receiver, but they got the playmaking. Baylor running back, maybe he could do something out of the backfield. Maybe they found something there. Ryan Poles did say the reason they drafted Hoge's guy, the punter, tricep punter, whatever you want to call him, Nick, because they didn't want to get in bidding wars in undrafted free agency, which I think you see happen now all the time, just because you can find diamonds in undrafted free agency. Obviously, I like the move, not getting in those bidding wars for a punter. But yes, if there's one debate, Nick, beyond just drafting Velus Jones Jr., maybe they could have taken another receiver on day 3.
So how many times has Kevin Fishbane texted, called, whatever today about Peter Skoronski being in Dane Brugler's 2023 mock draft?
I'll read you a text from him. Hold on. Stay right there.
Exclusive.
Sorry, Kev, if you're watching. Hope the Bears take him. Sorry.
I love it.
Number 1, because kid's going to be an outstanding offensive tackle. Number 2.
Yeah, he already is. He was as a true freshman.
Yeah. Local kid, Park Ridge, Maine South. 3, it's a Northwestern guy, so that's what Kevin's all about. Another Wildcat. Go Cats.
So he's got to be pretty jacked about Chris Bergen being at rookie minicamp this weekend, too.
Yeah. Go Cats.
That's right.
So there he is. John's already calling it. Next year's first-round pick, Peter Skoronski for the Chicago Bears.
And everybody should love that, right?
No, it's your left tackle of the future.
That's a good pick.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Everybody but Larry Borum or some of the rookies competing for that
true.
spot, but that's the nature of the NFL.
True. All right, Johnsy, appreciate the time today, man. And if anybody wants more, I'll see you in a couple hours because we're sitting down to record Hoge and Jahns a little bit later on today. So we'll have our full draft recap on Hoge and Jahns later today as well. And Kevin Fishbane, the Fishman, will join us for that. So plenty more content coming from Johnsy on The Athletic later today. Thanks, man.
All right, fellas. See ya.
Hi, Jahns.
There he is, Adam Jahns.
See ya.
That's a good way to end. Everybody's been asking for John, so there he is. Awesome having him on the show, and we appreciate that. Hey, the best way to support CHGO is to download the Pointsbet app. Use code CHGO when you sign up, and if you do that right now, you'll get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. That's not it. If you make a $50 more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making more than a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. Any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com. We'll help you out. You're home for live in-play betting. Just got even better. Got the playoffs going on right now, and PointsBet has the live NBA same-game parlay. For the first time ever, you can build the perfect live NBA same-game parlay only with PointsBet. And you can boost those parlays. Watch live, parlay live, boost live, all with PointsBet. And online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can download the app right now, right here on your phone, the PointsBet app. Register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. What are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
Before I tell you how awesome CHGO is, I'm going to try to redeem myself. with the play of the week here, Adam.
Oh, yeah. We're like 0 for 3, I think.
Yeah, we're not very good at this. But here,
I still liked my draft bet last week, though.
and I still like Tim Anderson getting that, two hits. It was the one game he didn't. All right, here we go. You don't have to listen to me, but I think these odds are in your favor. Player to record an RBI in this White Sox-Cubs series, Tim Anderson's at plus 210. I like those odds with Tim Anderson.
Plus 210 to just get an RBI?
Just get an RBI.
In the next 2 games?
Just in this game.
Oh, okay.
Player to record an RBI today, Tim Anderson. If you want to go here, if you want to make some serious money, though.
All right, is the wind blowing in, though, at
See,
Wrigley?
that's the thing. And now this is where this next one might, we'll see. Player to hit a home run. And I know this weather sucks, but Jose Abreu is at plus 550. He's homered his last 2 games. Like, if you're going to try to put money, put a $10 bet. What's the worst? I guess you can lose $10, but I those are going to be my 2. You don't have to take them, but I'm going to put money on the Jose Abreu. What do you think, Lawrence?
I think that we need Eloy back because he would have definitely hit a homer. But Eloy, of course, is out for many months and weeks, and it's just the way the Sox are right now.
I loved how Liam Hendricks looked though yesterday. That's my guy. That's my guy.
It was just nice to finally have a nice, easy win from start to finish.
Finally.
How about that? What a concept.
What a concept.
What a concept.
But yeah, take those play of the weeks if you want.
I like the TA bet. I'm a little concerned about the wind, though.
Yeah.
It's like 20 miles an hour out of the north.
Is there even going to be a game today? Like, honestly, with this crappy weather?
Probably not.
Who knows?
So, what a waste of time that whole thing was.
Yeah.
Ask Tom Skilling.
All right, Chicago sports fans, if you aren't a member of our CHGO family, what are you waiting for? Members will have access to all of our premium content from all of our great writers. You also get a free t-shirt of your choice when you become a member, and you get access to the members-only Discord, the CHGO Lounge. And, of course, we have podcasts and live shows like this one on every team, literally every team in the city, every single day. So come join this amazing family that is constantly growing here at CHGO.
All right, let's keep this in as we continue to recap the draft and what the Bears did. 11 players. It's still crazy to me. We're talking about 11 players. Like, I've never covered a draft with 11 players. The last time was 2008 when they took 12. So let's bring in Will DeWitt, and we will have coverage from rookie minicamp this weekend, by the way. So we'll get our eyes on these guys for the first time. Hear what Matt Eberflus has to say. The coordinators are going to talk this weekend. We're going to hear from Luke Getsy on Sunday, which is Mother's Day. Always loving rookie minicamps on Mother's Day weekend.
I did.
My wife does not love that, but she's a great mother, and that's so maybe we'll have to take Sunday off. I don't know. Hashtag no days off, right, Will DeWitt? What's up, buddy?
Yeah. Hey, I know that tremendously. We put in the work over the weekend, guys. It's great to see you, Nick. Hardly recognize you there with the beard kind of gone. And I don't know. I'm a little disappointed, though. Like, we had Adam on, and here I am. And, Nick, how many years have we asked for a full Chicago Audible, Hoge and Jahns kind of crossover episode? And it was always Hoge who couldn't allow us to do it with his schedule. And then we were so close. It's kind of there, but it's not really there. One day, all 4 of us need to sit down and talk.
Well, we got to figure out the double bubble then.
The double bubble.
I can teach you guys how to do the double bubble.
Oh, there's a double. Well, then this is on you, man. If you know how to do the double bubble, then
you told me to wait.
Oh, okay. Well, that's because I honestly didn't know that we had that technology. So we'll get that done, though. We'll get it done. Will.
Double bubble. I love it.
All right. But no, it's CHGO Bears, and I'm excited to kind of get into some of the talk that we have scheduled here today. I missed you both, and let's get to it.
We got to come up with like a game show then, where it's like Will and Nick versus the Adams.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, maybe we need like a trivia episode or something. I hate trivia.
Does that mean I have to be the host? Do I have to get one of those skinny microphones with the...
I like it.
And
Let's
Nick,
yeah.
Nick, I've been thinking through like a sports football trivia game show for years to do on YouTube as well. And I have some ideas.
He does.
All right. Let's talk about some of these undrafted free agents because we haven't had a chance to do that yet and kind of see them trickle through. Bears had to sign a lot of them because they had a lot of open roster spots. That's a good thing, though. I mean, just kind of gives you more swings at finding, a potential fit, somebody that can help you at least on special teams this year. Will, I'll ask you first. Of all these guys, and we kind of know who they are, I think some of it's still getting filled out, but who do you like the most out of the undrafted free agent class?
You're just going to wait to talk about Jack Sanborn, and that's okay.
I'm going to let somebody else bring him up, okay? So, it takes the homer stance off just at least a little bit.
Okay. So for me, I think we're all going to look at a guy like we're going to look at Master Teague here, right? Someone that did play with Justin Fields at Ohio State. He's that one cut back, hit the hole, plant his feet, and go. Very productive college career, 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns, and he's an interesting option for a change of pace back here in Chicago. Whether it be someone who earns a job this year or maybe sits on the practice squad for a bit. But I found out he had a background in bodybuilding, which I did not know heading into this. So that's interesting. That's why he's kind of a little bit bigger with that size, and he has decent speed for it. And he did experience an Achilles injury in the spring of 2020. And I saw a quote that he told reporters, and it was definitely just another chance for me to grow as a person, as a man, as a player, and to continue to build discipline in my life to help me with certain things down the road. And to me, like, that answer is exactly why the Bears brought this kid in to be a member of the Chicago Bears, at least right now. And, that mindset with such a devastating injury, and the fact that he returned that year, which was with Justin Fields and Fields last year in Ohio State, to have over 100 rushes, a career high 8 touchdowns, coming off an Achilles injury like 8 months prior is remarkable. And the mindset that he approached it with too is something I appreciate. So that's just one reason, or multiple reasons, why Master Teague is a guy that intrigues me more than some of the other guys on this list.
Great name too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Master Teague. No, I got a chance to see him a couple times in person at Ohio State, and like a lot of those backs, impressive.
Mm-hmm.
They just roll him through there at Ohio State, and he was one of the guys. So honestly, I kind of forgotten about him a little bit until then I saw him that the Bears were signing him as a UDFA. So he's an interesting name. Somebody I think certainly have my eyes on this weekend. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I can't even believe I'm about to say this particular player because of where he went, but Chase Allen, tight end out of Iowa State. He actually, according to Aaron Wilson from the Pro Football Network, signed a $60,000 base salary. So kind of looking at where the money's going to some of these undrafted free agents can give you a little bit of an indication of what the Bears kind of view them as. But it's a guy that in 2021 didn't have eye-popping stats, 26 receptions, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 drops, though, there for Iowa State. But it does feel that traditional wide tight end. And I know the Bears have added quite a few tight ends since the offseason began just through free agency. But a guy that's 6'6", 251 pounds, kind of curious to see what he can do out there, this weekend.
Nick,
all right, I'll talk about the 2 linebackers I know. So sorry, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I know. Technology, right, guys? So, Nick, you know that we used to work with a guy named Nick Austin who covers, the Cyclones now for football. So I did send him a couple of texts about Chase Allen, just kind of wanting to learn a little bit more about him. He was on my list too, and this is what I found out. So he's improved his route tree throughout his career. He's been lauded for his leadership and how he's represented their program. More than anything, he's got a legitimate shot to make the roster because he can block for a tight end very, very well. And Nick also referenced that he got hit by a car by the practice facility early on in his career. He had 103 stitches in his back due to the windshield smashing on his back. And he was able to overcome that. Yeah, that's great. And he handled that with, class and something as well. But he's been one of the bigger faces of terms of the turnaround at Iowa State University. So, yeah, wasn't that crazy? He got hit outside the practice facility, 100.
What the hell's going on at the Iowa State campus? People are just running over their players. What's going on?
Yeah, but a tremendous blocker who's still kind of getting into his own a bit in terms of growing as a receiving threat. And like you said, Nick, he has the size, and as Mr. Austin referenced to, really lauded for that leadership. So another player that the Bears didn't draft, but could end up being around for a while.
Well, granted, the UDFA class is large, but I mean, this is if you're an undrafted free agent, the Bears are a team you want to go to right now because your chances of making the team are high.
Yeah, there's a lot of spots.
Are higher than other places where most teams are maybe only best case scenario, one UDFA makes it as a special teamer to start. Mm-hmm. In some years it doesn't happen at all. It's becoming more and more of a trend, I feel like, where some of these guys fall through the cracks. This was a deeper draft too. So in terms of, there were guys, the undrafted free agent pool this year is better than most years because there were more draftable players this year. So it was a good year to have that many picks and then that many spots still available to sign some of these guys. And in some ways, like adding those picks late in the draft, as we heard Jahns say earlier, was like getting to just secure some of the guys you would have taken in undrafted free agency anyway, like the punter. So, these are all things you maybe are grasping at a little bit when things are going bad for your franchise. But, when you're rebuilding and you have open roster spots, these are some of the silver linings, I'll say. So a couple linebackers that I'll just talk about because I know them. Like, granted, a lot of these guys on this list don't know who they are. But Jack Sanborn, who played at Wisconsin, to me, he was a draftable player. Him and Leo Chanel, who did get drafted. Who drafted Leo again? I'm blanking on that right now.
I will
Look that up. I'm forgetting who drafted Leo Chanel. The Chiefs. The Chiefs drafted Leo Chanel. That's who drafted him. Anyway, they played together. They called themselves Death Row. Those linebackers on that 3-4 defense. Jack Sanborn, by the way, local kid, played at Lake Zurich before going to Wisconsin. And Sanborn, he's like a downhill linebacker who, for 3 years, if you were just listening to a Wisconsin radio broadcast, you'd hear Jack Sanborn's name constantly because he's just piling up the tackles, playing downhill, getting in the backfield, piling up TFLs, sacks. And then Leo Chanel kind of really took over this past year with his athleticism, and together they were dangerous. So I was a little surprised Sanborn didn't get drafted. I would put him in the class of players that probably would have gotten drafted in past years. Doesn't mean he's going to be superstar. Doesn't mean he's the future Mike linebacker for the Bears forever. But I think he has a chance to stick on special teams, potentially compete at that Sam linebacker spot where we heard Matt Eberflus talk about how he wants that guy to also be able to back up other positions. And Sanborn has experience playing both the Mike and Will linebacker spots, granted in a different scheme, but he has done that in the past. So he just projects to me as somebody who could fill what the Bears want that kind of third linebacker to be. I'm not saying he can get there right away, but I'd like that as an undrafted free agent signing. So before I talk about the other guy, you guys can react to that, I guess.
Yeah, well, actually, Will, I know you did so much homework on all these guys. Who else do you have on your list there?
Well, when you give me a 24-hour notice, I have some time on my hands, I'm ready to roll. I just want to at least give a shout out to a guy, to Micah Treadway, the defensive lineman out of Minnesota.
Yeah, okay.
He had actually 7 years in college between Notre Dame and Minnesota, but he's from Bolingbrook, Illinois, local kid. So that's one of those that you always like to root for a little bit more. And the only other player that I think I want to highlight here is Amari Carter, the safety out of Miami. He is a thumper, an extremely aggressive football player, so much so that he had some issues with those roughness penalties, targeting in college, a little bit of lack of ball production, 1 interception, 1 pass defense last year. But, he's a bigger guy, 6'2", 200 pounds. Maybe he's like a hybrid linebacker, safety, special teams player. And I think that would be his path to this roster if he can contribute on special teams. And that's kind of tough with safety because you have Elijah Hicks, who the Bears drafted, who I really, really like the more I look into him, DHC, as well as Cruikshank and two. So there's just a crowded room there, but Amari Carter with that physicality and that special teams experience, perhaps he's someone that can carve a role in that third phase as well.
Will, I'm just going to add one more guy that brings that physicality, but he does it at the cornerback position. Allie Green from Missouri. I watched a little bit of tape on him last night. At 6'2", 202 pounds, he loves to just jam wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. And he plays physical throughout the route. Also pretty good at just turning his head and trying to find the football. But that's a guy that if it's a running play, usually you don't see corners going and willingly get in there. Green's someone that will throw his body out there, get into the scrum of things, and make some plays. So I'm curious to see how he looks at rookie minicamp just because he does provide that physical presence. And, if he's looking to make that team, he's got to show and just use the attributes that he has.
Adam, I did want to actually ask you a question about Sanborn because when I was looking at him, I saw 16 tackles for a loss last season, 5 sacks. What makes him so good at making plays behind the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, it helps that he had a guy in front of him who got drafted on the D-line, the linebacker next to him, Leo Chanel, obviously. It's a well-schemed defense. Jim Leonard, the defense coordinator of Wisconsin, could easily be a defensive coordinator in the NFL. without a doubt. The Packers tried to hire him actually a couple years ago, and he decided to stay in Madison, his alma mater, that he loves being there and could potentially, I think, take over for Paul Chryst down the line as the head coach if he wanted to do that. So I think part of it's scheme. I think part of it is, his instincts. I mean, he's a guy that showed up on campus right away and started making plays. So now I think the questions are more about his coverage abilities and maybe being vulnerable there. So that's the area that I think he needs to be able to improve and be trusted before they throw him out there. But, potentially as a guy who wouldn't be on the field except in your base defense, which isn't going to be a whole lot anyway.
True.
And then back up other spots. I do think he has some potential there. And, I think we all feel the same way. Like when a local kid gets brought on to the Bears, it's just kind of a cool thing. You saw Kramer, the offensive lineman from Illinois, how excited he was about the whole thing the other day. And we'll just have to see how that plays out. One of the other guys that I wanted to bring up, Chris Bergen, who just got a rookie minicamp invite. So he's not signed. He just got invited to rookie minicamp. Ty Dunn had a great story. My friend Ty Dunn, who runs the Go Long newsletter, if you want to check that out, had a good story on him. So Chris Bergen, like I call him like a maniac linebacker type. He's undersized. He had brothers that went to Northwestern. He shows up on campus and was kind of an afterthought as a preferred walk-on type guy, and just immediately started impressing the coaches because he was all over the practice field. They threw him on special teams very early as a freshman, and he was making plays. So then he became kind of the special teams ace. He was either like the special teams player of the week or the practice player of the week, like half the season as a freshman. And then he eventually earned a spot playing linebacker and was just racking up tackles like crazy. And I tweeted this the other day, but when Northwestern beat Auburn in the Citrus Bowl, that was the COVID year, they all knew it was hard to figure out who was coming back because everybody could come back if they wanted, right? True. And here's a guy who I didn't necessarily know if he had an NFL future, and I started to delicately ask that question about coming back, and he interrupted me, and he was like, "Oh, I'm coming back, hell yeah!" It wasn't even a question. He's like, "Oh, I'm coming back for sure." And then he had another good season last year. So look, he's undersized. I think ideally you'd almost want to move him to safety in the NFL, but I don't think he's fast enough to do that. So, however, we see guys like this that just become special team aces, and make a career out of that. So I'm intrigued to see what. He's definitely one of those players that immediately the coaches love. So it'll be interesting to see the reaction he gets on the practice field this week at rookie minicamp.
I'm trying to think who's been the most successful undrafted free agent that the Bears have brought on recently. I think Bryce Callahan kind of fits that.
Yeah.
That would be the first name that comes to mind as guys that, hey, you're not expecting them to really amount to really anything, to be a contributor on defense, but Callahan was definitely someone that was able to take the most out of his opportunity. So a lot of these players, more than 20 plus, are going to get that opportunity at Hallis Hall this weekend. So
is it bad news that neither of us wanted to highlight any of the receivers that they brought in?
I had some notes on a couple of guys. Here, Cyrus Holder from Duquesne, a guy that's 6'4", 205 pounds. There's not a lot of Duquesne tape out there, but
you don't watch Duquesne every week.
I can't even tell you where that's at.
Only the true grinders are watching Duquesne every week. Lawrence is watching.
Well, I mean, I prefer them as an A-10 basketball team, but the Duquesne football team is not one of my main weekend watches.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that he lived in the end zone, just being that jump ball kind of specialist for the team there. Caught 37 receptions, 629 yards, 8 touchdowns. But at this opportunity at Hallis Hall, seeing what he can do against some of these DBs there, be interesting to see what he can do.
All right, real quick, we'll let you know that if you enjoy CHGO, hope you're enjoying the show today. One way to help us continue to grow is to download that Pointsbet app. Use code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO Locker. If you haven't gone to the CHGO Locker, by the way, you should. And now's like, if you've been putting this off, now's the time to go do it, because the new Fire and Red Star shirts we have
So cool.
are fire. I mean, that's the only way I can put it. I'm gonna go order mine today. Order mine today, get them on the show by the end of the week, maybe. Because that's how, I mean, they really are great. So that you could pick whichever shirt you want. We got one for every team. And if you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com and we will help you out. Online signups available in Illinois. You download the PointsBet app. You can do it right now. Register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. It's very easy. You'll be signing up with the fastest sports book, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. What are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
And one more reminder, you guys, with CHGO, like if you want to get that premium content, like Adam and I are going to be at House Hall for rookie minicamp this weekend. That's a great opportunity to kind of get the insight, what's kind of going on there as the Bears are trying to find other players to fill out this roster. But again, the Cubs and Sox are going to have that crosstown rivalry. There's a bunch of stuff going on in Chicago sports, and you want to be here at CHGO and make sure you get all the notifications. You're just following all the teams and just getting all that premium content, like I said. And again, like that CHGO Lounge is also available on Discord. So there's so many benefits of being just a member of CHGO. So definitely go check that out at allchgo.com.
And Nick, I think if they sign up right now, they'd really enjoy reading our post-draft roundtable that you and I did.
That's another plus. So there's so many benefits.
Mm-hmm. That was good work, by the way, guys.
Appreciate
it.
Thank
Roundtable,
you.
so you can check that out at allchgo.com. And we should probably do a post-draft discussion on Discord, too.
I think that's
Yes.
a great idea.
And have that going as well. So I believe we have a little bit of news that's come out here mid-show, too. With the Bears scouting staff and some front office changes. So let's see if I can get this to load on this beautiful internet. Okay, Bears. This is from the Chicago Bears. They're announcing this mid-show. Bears general manager Ryan Poles on Tuesday appointed Jeff King and Trey Koziel as co-directors of player personnel. He said in a quote, "We are excited to name both Jeff and Trey co-directors of player personnel. Not only are both outstanding evaluators, but they also enhance the work environment and culture due to their personalities, passion, and selfless approach. Both Jeff and Trey will have a strong influence on roster decisions made in pro and college scouting." King joined the Bears in 2015 as a scouting intern, and he was hired full-time as a pro scout in 2016 before being promoted to assistant director of pro scouting in 2019 and director of pro scouting in 2020. So we heard Jahns actually talked earlier in the show about Trey, who was brought over from Kansas City, and that had already happened, and he was given that title of co-director of player personnel. So we were kind of expecting someone else to fill that, to be the other co-director, and it's good to see Ryan Poles promote from within there. One interesting thing about Poles is, when we talked about this when he got hired as a GM, he survived multiple GM changes in Kansas City. So I think he has a respect for guys who have already been in a place, their livelihood, and really tried to understand the work that they've done. And, like we talked about earlier, not going to keep everyone. Changes were inevitable, but in this case with Jeff King promoted.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's one of the things about Poles, too. He knows what it's like to be in a player's shoes. He knows what it's like to be in that role as well. So seeing that he's gone through it, it does give you more of an appreciation of how Poles kind of is, promoting from within and giving these guys a bigger opportunity to kind of go and evaluate and just kind of escalate in their kind of scouting careers. But, yeah, it was inevitable, especially with the people that were let go yesterday, and now that you're kind of promoting within, starting the new era of Bears football.
And really not just promoting within, but being able to identify that talent, right? Because he's only been here a few months and he's working with these guys. So he probably has great admiration and respect for King. And Adam, you mentioned he started as an intern only like 6 years ago. So he's a fast riser in that player personnel department. And I'm excited that he's staying here in Chicago because obviously they have something in him. And hopefully, he succeeds at his job. That's what we all want to see.
It's interesting in this Bears release they put out, they give King credit for helping sign Alec Ogletree and Jason Peters last August,
wow.
which is kind of a very specific thing to bring up. So that's interesting. I mean, both of those guys ended up being key contributors. The release mentions how they made 31 of a possible 34 starts in 2021. Neither player's back right now, but for last-minute signings, they were good signings to pick up those guys in August, which is another reminder. I feel like we say this every day, but more players are going to be added. Which, should we talk about that lineman that looks like might be available? Nate Herbig?
Oh, yeah. I feel like, look, you have to connect the dots. The Bears kind of have, obviously, holes still on that line, but I think that would be, it's like a logical choice for the Bears. They wanted to get somebody that does have experience and maybe almost feels like a similar role how they kind of viewed an Alec Ogletree or guys like that, where they can come in, play, and you kind of know what you're getting, right? I think that would be a move that if it gets made, I'm like, okay, we can see that coming. We talked about it in the CHGO Bears podcast. We knew about it.
He's out of Philadelphia, right?
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
they're planning on
Cunningham
releasing
connection.
him, but it's almost one of the, sometimes they it leaks out they're going to release you, and then they wait 24 hours just to make sure no team wants to be like, hey, let me trade for him.
Yep.
So, but that's what the expectation is.
Right. I just wanted to point out the Ian Cunningham possible connection as well. If anyone has intimate knowledge of him in the building, it would be him.
Who? I'm sorry.
Ian Cunningham?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Since he was with the Eagles. Absolutely.
Exactly.
I've heard of him.
In the personnel department. Somewhat.
He has his own rule.
Well, and this was, again, I don't know how many times we brought this up before the draft, how the Bears cut Charles Leno after the draft. Guys get sprung loose, and then you're able to pick them up, and even if it's just filling a hole for a little bit. But the Commanders ended up keeping Charles Leno.
Yeah, they sent him to another contract. I mean, for a 7th-round draft pick, Charles Leno has done pretty well for himself.
Yeah, people on Twitter, I love you. I listed in the middle of the draft when the Bears were adding all those picks, because someone was like, you don't find any players ever late in the round. And I listed off it was 8 or 9 of them in the last 6 years that the Bears have found. And one of them was Charles Leno. And someone was like, oh, I like how you snuck Charles Leno's name in there. I feel like he started, it was 79 straight games at left tackle in the NFL. You don't suck if you do that. It's just not possible to suck if you do that.
Especially at the left tackle position, too. And you're a 7th-round draft pick. The expectations, I feel like Bears fans just put him, on a pedestal to be better than where his draft status was. And he did play better than that. So
Yeah, he totally outperformed his draft. Now,
completely.
Is it also fair to say the Bears could do better?
Yes.
And that's okay. But, give the guy his respect at the same time.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah. And I don't know, Jason Peters, he was probably better last year, slightly. But about the same, and Leno can actually move. Well, I think I brought this up before. I've played basketball against that dude. He can surprisingly, he's insanely athletic.
Agile.
You understand when you got a basketball court with those guys, why they're playing left tackle in the NFL, and they're that big and can move like that is extremely impressive.
I really want to see that, just to see him, one of these linemen move out there and shooting some hoops.
You don't want to see him coming at you full speed,
Probably
though,
not taking
driving
the charge.
to the hole.
Not taking the charge.
Okay, there you go. Nope. Have the hoop. All right. One thing we did want to bring up before we get out of here, and we will take some football questions if you have them in the chat. But I know one of them in there was about Herbig, so I want to bring that up. But there was a tweet from Mike Renner from Pro Football Focus. They got a lot of attention from Bears fans over the weekend. I think it was Sunday, and he said there's a strong argument to be made that Justin Fields has the weakest supporting offensive cast in the NFL. Guys, agree or disagree with this tweet?
I don't think it's too off base, to be completely honest. And that doesn't mean that Justin Fields won't have success in year 2, but looking at his supporting cast, Darnell Mooney, Byron Pringle, Velus Jones Jr., Cole Kmet, David Montgomery, if those are the 5, they're a lot better supporting cast for other teams, I think. But again, that doesn't mean that Justin Fields going to be bad.
Are there 31 other ones? I don't believe there are 31 better personnel groupings than this. I really don't. I can go on a tangent if you would like here because I've been thinking about this all morning.
Ooh, let's hear it. Let's hear the tangent.
All right,
Will's tangent.
So
That's a
Mooney,
segment.
19th in the NFL last year, right? Over 1,000 yards receiving. That's with 3 different quarterbacks. Why can't he be able to do that with with Justin in a better system? Byron Pringle, 54 catches, 8 touchdowns last year, 650 yards as a wide receiver 4 last year. He's reliable. He caught 74% of his targets. That was more than DeAndre Hopkins, Russell Gage, Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen. Mahomes' passer rating when throwing to Pringle, 135.5. When he threw to Tyreek Hill, it was only 111. When he threw to Mecole Hardman, only 109. And he also led the Chiefs with catching 60% of his contested catches. So just don't sleep on Byron Pringle. Valdez-Scantling, I know we're not as high on him as some of the other players too, but he was 17th in the NFL with 5 yards after the catch per reception. Another thing that the Bears have really kind of promoted, and he did that better than most guys who played on the outside. A lot of the people on that list played in the slot. Only 2 players who played as much outside as he did ranked higher, which was Jamar Chase and Deebo Samuel. So to be third on that list, I think is very enticing as well. Velus Jones Jr., we mentioned it, yards after the catch monster. Someone I think who I've been high on the whole pre-draft process. And Adam, we talked about Cole Kmet a couple weeks ago that he's had a lot of good production too, that people have been sleeping on. David Montgomery, good back out of the backfield receiving. Tristan Ebner, who the Bears drafted, is a very natural receiver coming out of the backfield. And then those veteran tight ends, Ryan Griffin, only 2 years removed from being a top 5 tight end in the red zone. And then James O'Shaughnessy, over 500 yards and 10 yards per catch over the last 2 seasons. Like, there are playmakers here. They're just not the household names.
Well, and real quick, there was a comment up there that was very interesting about you can't really argue that the Packers have that much better of a supporting cast around Aaron Rodgers. Now, let's be very clear about that. Around Rodgers, so like outside of Rodgers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, who we have in studio here every day with our producer, does a great job producing. Yeah. Although the hair's cut, I don't know. You still do look like Rodgers, though. I'm surprised at how much you still look like him with the haircut.
I mean, I did get the Rodgers comparison like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, before he was a crazy person.
I mean, I think if we ever get State Farm as a sponsor here, you got to do the reads.
Totally fine. I'll happily do that.
Discount double check. Well, so obviously the whole offense, Packers have a better offense. They have Aaron Rodgers. He's great. He owns the Bears, all that stuff. The weapons, though, it's like, okay, Christian Watson, who a lot of fans wanted. I get it. But Darnell Mooney's better than Christian Watson.
At this point, yeah.
Alan Lazard. Darnell Mooney's better than Alan Lazard. Randall Cobb is still on this roster,
Crazy.
which is crazy. Obviously, Aaron Jones is a really good running back. He's probably better than David Montgomery. But David Montgomery's pretty good. You could argue the Bears' running back room as a whole is better than what the Packers have. Although A.J. Dillon's a pretty good backup. I think where the Packers would have the edge, and it still matters, is their offensive line.
Yep.
I mean, they have David Bakhtiari at left tackle. They've done a good job at drafting there in recent years. And although the Bears did get Lucas Patrick from the Packers.
They did. They did do that.
So I think you still got to say, all right, the offensive line is where they get a big edge. But in terms of the weapons, I don't think it's that outlandish to make an argument that the Bears are still in the same realm overall.
And I think this whole, argument's coming up only because the Bears just didn't draft a wide receiver in the second round. To be completely honest, the Bears do that. I wonder, hey, look, the Bears went out and got somebody, but I feel like that if the Bears only did that solely to, again, draft a wide receiver, then they're really going away from their entire process. It doesn't even matter then. You're not evaluating who's the best player on the board if you're just addressing one position of need when the Bears had several positions of need. So I get it. And the Packers had their first 2 picks were defensive players. The Bears' first 2 picks were defensive players. Both their third picks were wide receivers. And yet it seems like the Bears get the negative look on it because it was a guy in the third round as opposed to Christian Watson in the second. But that's where I think this argument comes from. We honestly just need to wait till the season plays out and see what these guys can do in Luke Getsy's system, because that in itself should make the weapons that the Bears do have, I would think, better than what we saw last year, because last year was abysmal and you can't really do much worse.
I'm just calling BS as there's 31 better supporting casts out there in the NFL right now. I know it's only May 3rd, but
I would say like
looking at what
Houston. Like what? I don't even know. We were talking about like who's on Houston right now in terms of players, not drafted guys, but guys last year. Like I can't even.
So here's where I'll back up the tweet a little bit though, like the original tweet that we talked about. And this is kind of what happens on social media is everyone gets kind of then caught up in semantics and misses the original point. And the original point is valid. The original point is that the supporting cast around Justin Fields at best is unproven and needs to be better. And at worst could really put him in harm's way this season. Now, I'm willing to look on the bright side too. I'm willing to say, you know what? I think there might be a little bit more talent here than we think. I am worried about the offensive line. The more and more I watch Will's guy, Velus Jones Jr., I think he's a guy you can put the ball in his hands week 1 3 or 4 times and get some positive plays out of. The one guy I kept watching, guys, Trestan Ebner is a good running back.
He is.
And he is a very good receiving running back. And I wonder about getting him on the field as an extra guy that you could potentially throw the ball to in certain packages. So I just think that let's just not forget I don't want to say solved because none of us really know, but they addressed the secondary and 2 enormous holes on the secondary with guys who could be plug-and-play starters, and that should just not be missed. And meanwhile, let the offense play out. It's okay to be skeptical. They're the Chicago Bears, and they're always crappy on offense. Like, I get it. But let's just give Ryan Poles some time here to put this thing together and at least wait till the pads go on in camp to really evaluate what they have. Make sense?
Yeah.
Couldn't have said
it
it
makes
better
sense to me. Outside the offensive line, I still don't know if unproven is the word that I would use for the unit because there's a few veterans here with proven production in the past. I guess we just had to see how they project and what their roles actually will be, in this offense. But to have, a Velus Jones, which if you put his yards after a catch that he averaged last year in the NFL, that would have been 3rd in the entire league. And Rondell Moore out of Purdue was able to do similar things last year in terms of after the catch. So it's not impossible for a rookie to come in with I'll say limited role to be nice, but like you said, Adam, a few touches a game and make a difference. So I really, again, when I saw it, by the way, all the stats I used came from PFF. So I just want to make sure I use his tool to debunk some of that argument as well.
There you go.
There you go. All right, guys. Will, appreciate you. Great stuff today. Awesome having Adam Jahns on the show today as well. Make sure you're following Will at Will DeWitt. The L's are ones. Make sure you give him that follow. A lot of good post-draft content on Will's Twitter page. Check that out, Adam Jahns at Adam Jahns. And we will have more later today on the Hoge and Jahns podcast if you want to check that out. But make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, the notification, so you know when we go live. We will be at 11 a.m. until Friday. Friday's show will be a little bit later in the afternoon because of rookie minicamp. But otherwise, we'll be back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. with a lot of good stuff. Make sure you follow Nick on Twitter at Nicholas Moreano. I'm at Adam Hoge. Follow our CHGO Twitter accounts. Go to allchgo.com. Get those memberships. We appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching, listening. Hit the subscribe button. Rate and review the pod. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 11 o'clock.